Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Listen Up. My name is Brandon, and yes, this is part 2 of our topic of mental health. Now, in part 1, we also talked about mental health, and I'm sure our guest is very familiar to you already if you watch part 1. And we spoke about mental health in general, including the climate, the church climate when it comes to the topic of mental health and mental illnesses. We also talk about the relationship between the spiritual and the physical and the mental, and how all of this are intertwined and interconnected. And of course, this is part 2, where we'll be talking a little bit more, I would say, more application-based question and answers, and also there are some practical tips that we hope that you'll be able to apply even in your own lives and even in your own churches, and you know, even if as pastors or leaders yourself, you will find this useful. So our guest for today is no stranger to us. Second time on the show, ladies and gentlemen, the Dean of Counseling from BCM. Please help me welcome back for part 2 of Mental Health on Listen Up, Miss Avis Ng. Hello, Avis. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome
Hi,
back.
Brandon. Yes.
Welcome again. Yeah. Thank you for staying with us for part 2. Now, part 1, you spoke at length. I would say more general about mental health, but today we are delving a little bit deeper. So I'm not surprised if it sounds more education and more academic based and a little bit more scientific as well. I'm prepared for it, and we'll be talking a little bit more about depression in specific, and also maybe some of the tips that you can provide for different groups of people who are in, you know, different environments or different situations. So it's with this pandemic right now that we're still living in, it's really actually no surprise. We hear a lot more of these cases. I'm sure a lot of our friends who are in churches can identify with this, that you will hear more people falling into depression, especially with people who have lost income, suffered the loss of loved ones, loss of social interactions as well. You know, a lot of things. Like, basically, there's been a loss of many different aspects in life, and this is a fact. You know, that the reported number of suicide and the attempted suicide cases have also increased since the MCO started. So today we will, like I said, talk a little bit more in depth about depression and other mental illnesses, and also potentially how to cope with them. So Avis, thank you so much again. I can see already in your eye there's a tinge of seriousness now. You're a little bit more serious than you were last time, but we still want to have a casual conversation, you know.
Sure.
And of course, a lot of it will deal with how to cope with it as well. So let's dive straight into it. Let's talk about the very, I would say, not sensitive, but very quite difficult topic of depression. Such a big word. Such a word that has a lot of negative connotations attached to it as well, I would say. And my first question is a very practical, applicable one. How do you tell if someone is in depression? Can you share this? Yeah.
Sure. I'll make a reference to this Burns depression checklist that usually I do use in my sessions. So the telltale signs, I will put it into 4 big categories. Yeah. The first category will be certain thoughts and feelings. Okay. For example, just feeling sad, really down in the dumps for a while now. Okay.
How long does a while? I'm just gonna jump in. How long is a while here? Like, does a week constitute
more than 3 months?
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is some time frame that we can work with here.
Yes.
Okay.
But of course, for some people, they're feeling down for not shorter time, but it's just truly very down in the valley. That counts as well. Yeah. So usually for screening is, say, the past month.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But if we want to look at a clinical depressed, we need to look at the lengthier time, so 6 months. Right. But because now pandemic has changed so many things. Yeah, so we want to nip the problem in the bud, right? So by kind of like gauging the last 3 months, you know, how are you feeling and how are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Okay, so this is the first category. Yeah, is it feeling gloom, blue for the past 3 months? Are your thoughts full of worthlessness, inadequacy, hopelessness? These kind of thoughts that we want to look out for. So the last 3 months, maybe you've been criticizing yourself or blaming yourself for certain things. Maybe like a loss of someone, maybe due to the COVID, maybe you might be the carrier and stuff like that. So a lot of self-blame, criticism, guilt maybe as well. Right. So for the last 3 months, for any thoughts and feelings, this is the first category we'll look into in the age of depression. Number 2 will be activities and personal relationships.
Right.
So for the past 3 months, what are some activities that you used to like and you used to take interest on, and have you totally cut off from that? Personal relationship, have you been withdrawing yourself a lot for the past 3 months? So couple with thoughts, feelings, your personal relationship with people close to you, activities, hobbies that you used to like has been deteriorate. So these are signs, the telltale signs. The third category will be physical symptoms. So there are physical manifestation of depression. So example, feeling tired all the time. You slept 12 hours, but you're still waking up, needing to fall asleep. Okay, these are signs. Difficulty sleeping or sleeping too much. So sometimes it's lack of sleep as well is a sign. Okay, where you just find yourself unable to sleep or having nightmares or waking up in the night, insomnia. Okay, insomnic symptoms. Or sometimes it's decrease or increase of appetite. These are some signs as well of physical symptoms.
Even an increase in appetite.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in pandemic, when we are cooped up, we kind of like eat more. But there's a distinction.
I'm thinking about myself right now. Like I've been eating a lot, I've been putting on weight. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's not to say, am I depressed because I'm eating a lot. Sometimes it's emotional eating or stress eating. Right. So these are all the categories we want to look into before we diagnose or not diagnose, screen through depression symptoms.
Right.
Sometimes we jump in the gun, and say, this person is depressed because he sleeps too much. But there are so many other categories to consider. So this is just one of all these categories, the eating too much or less.
Right.
So the appetite change. So other physical symptoms would be worrying about your health. Of course, this moment everyone is worrying about health. That means sometimes to the extreme where you are counting all your food intake or those kind of things. So it is a kind of sort of a little bit of obsess as well on your health. If my BP level just suddenly went up, does it mean I'm having COVID, So it's the too much anxiety as well can be signs. So another one is more for couples, So loss of interest of sex is also one of the category of depression. And the next last would be suicidal urges. Okay, so for depression screening, we will screen suicidal urges. Do you have thoughts of suicide for the past 3 months or the last month? Okay, so for suicide urges, we have 3 questions. Number is thoughts. Do you have just running thoughts of harming yourself? Or do you would like to end your life? That is the second question. Sometimes it's just thoughts. I wish I can end it today. Or sometimes it's actually you do have a desire. Do you like to end your life? Sometimes it's not just a thought. It's more of, I want to. It's like a decision, some sort. The third question is, do you have plans? To harm, plans to attempt. So for clients that I see who have urges, I will ask a very systematic question regarding that topic of suicide. So one of it is, do you have thoughts? Would you like to? And number 3, do you have attempts or plans? Okay, plans means, I already planned, I will go to the shop and I'll buy some strings and I'll tie it up to my fan. And this is how I will tie the knots. So these people are very serious. They already have a systematic plan already. So we want to really take notice on that. It's not just a red flag. It is already signs.
Right.
that that they need help, they need intervention. Okay, so these are telltale signs of depression.
Wow.
So-
If you didn't explain that to me in such detail, I would have absolutely zero. I mean, I have some idea, some of the telltale signs I have heard before, but to let it be explained that in depth by you, it's very detailed, and I think it really helps a lot as well. Because, is it fair to say that as well? It's you can't just say like what you said just now. Just because you're eating so much, then you have depression. No, it's how do you gauge in the sense that, apart from the fourth category, I think that's very obvious, but do you, as a practitioner, do you say like, okay, this person hit 3 out of 4, hence, there is reason to believe that this person is depressed, or if 2 out of 4 is enough to say so. Okay. Is there a certain gauge, like 75% for feel, or, is there such a thing?
Yeah, well, I won't say that way because I'm a counselor. So counselor don't do diagnosis. What we do is just screening. We just screen, sure, okay, there are symptoms of depression. But if you want to have a proper diagnosis, we will refer you to psychologists or psychiatrists where they do proper diagnosis, which takes, say, 1 hour plus. Right. It's not just 10 minutes asking you question, oh, you are depressed. So it takes a length of time, right, to really go through certain questions and diagnosis questions. So for counselors, we don't diagnose, but we just sort of give you, there are some symptoms.
Yeah.
Okay? So if I noted that there are thoughts, feelings, activities, changes, withdrawal from society, feeling of physical symptoms of tiredness, or eating too much, those kind of things, I would put it in my mind, say, okay, these are symptoms of depression. But would it warrant, say, medication? Would it warrant a diagnosis? Then it is really my discretion already. Yeah, I would say, okay, this client would definitely benefit from medication right now. So I'll refer them.
Right.
If at this moment they are having symptoms, but I believe having therapy for a few sessions, it will help to balance up their emotion, then I will do so.
Now, don't mind me asking this question. I've never been to a professional counselor in my life. What would you say is the effectiveness rate? Does it? A lot of people have a lot of doubts. I'm just being the devil's advocate here, right? If you don't mind me asking, what is the effectiveness rate such that 3 months of counseling will help you improve this much? Because when it comes to mental health, it's not a physical thing. Like physical, like you broke your arm, 3 months of rehab or physical therapy. You go for physiotherapy. I can bend my arm now. Oh, I got feeling again. Would 3 months be enough? What is the effectiveness rate? How do you even, how?
Right. I would say at least engaging in therapy session or counseling session is better than none. Okay. Depending on the person as well, sometimes when they see a counselor, it's not a good fit. It's not because the therapist is not trained enough, but it's just sometimes personality, or sometimes we call it the connection.
Right.
Yeah. May not be there, and sometimes the clients will come in one session and say, oh, it doesn't work. It's not to say therapy doesn't work. Maybe it's just the match of client and the counselor is not there.
Right.
So there are a few clients that have seen other therapists before, and sometimes they say, oh, so far it doesn't work, why should I see another one again? But I hope that they would not give up. Okay, but so the one thing is to find a right therapist that matches you, matches maybe, say, a Christian therapist might be something you're more comfortable with, or maybe a non-Christian therapist might be more comfortable with. So finding one that matches, and it takes a while.
Right.
Yeah, counseling is not me giving you an answer and you're, wow, I got the answer towards life.
You're not Jesus,
So
basically.
Yes, no, definitely not. Yeah, we are pointing you to Jesus, of course. So taking a while, definitely. I won't say a number of months. I cannot say properly 6 sessions will be great, or 10 sessions will be great. It depends on the presenting issue as well. Yeah. So like for myself as a counselor, I love seeing my therapist. You know, even though I have no mental illness, I want to just talk it out. I want to just share out what's going on with my current life right now. So it's more of not to solve or to elevate from mental illness. It's actually also mental well-being. How to maintain a strong mental health or a strong spiritual health. Yeah, we need to have a session with your therapist.
Right. Very good.
So I cannot give a
time frame.
Line,
Right, of course, because like you say, every patient is different as well. Every client is different, so and every issue or problem is different. Yeah, that's a very
most important. Most important is you are comfortable with your therapist, and you know that therapist can journey with you.
Yeah. Now, still onto the topic of depression here. This is a question from one of our members from Discord, our Discord community server. It's from Cool B. And I'm going to say it as it is. Any tips, all right, for us as fellow brothers and sisters to support our fellow brothers and sisters who are struggling in mental health? I know we can do so little, but I know we can't leave our fellow brother or sister to suffer alone. Sad smiley face. So it's quite a good question, you know, and it ties in with the question that I want to ask you as well. How to help someone in depression? What can we do? And one of our designers asked this question. He knows, or he or she knows, we can do so little, but he or she doesn't want to leave that person alone as well to suffer. So very good question.
Yeah. First, I want to acknowledge that everyone is not doing so little. Yeah, we are really doing the best we can for our friends. I want to acknowledge that, and thank you for even noticing that your friend is really struggling, and you're taking the time to even want to equip yourself at this point. Yeah. So you're right, the loneliness, the emptiness really kills. Yeah. It does really affect that one person who is struggling emotionally. So one thing to support, or some simple tips that we can do at this moment as a lay friend or a friend, is just to continue stay connected. Yeah? So just continue checking in with them. Continue to stay the lifeline there, even though physically we are far apart. Okay. So I'll give simple steps. Well, maybe just 4 simple steps. In helping your friend who is probably going through some struggles. Number 1 is just to listen. To listen and say, hi, how are you going? What's up for the last week? You mean you're struggling with your studies? Can you tell me more? Yeah. So keep the connection going. It's just listening. Number 1 is listening. Number 2 is paraphrasing or asking for clarification. So, tell me more. When you say you're struggling with your work, I want to know. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So it's paraphrasing and listening. Paraphrase and listen. So instead of you trying to tell your story, you just give that space for the person. The more you give the space, the more they will tell you more things. If they are suicidal, you know that this is a big issue already. And the best thing is, since you are at this point, you're sharing with me that you're suicidal, I will need to refer you to somebody else. I'll need to at least talk to somebody to support you. That is really a lot, but it's the basic thing you can do. Listen, and you can paraphrase, ask for clarification. Number 3 is not trying to fix their problem. So when they share, I have problems with studies, I cannot concentrate, and then you start to give problem solution. Maybe you should eat more fish oil, omega-3, or maybe you should stop playing with your phone. So that you are trying to fix their problem, right? So refrain from that. It's just listening, ask for clarification, being curious. You might have a great answer, so keep it to yourself. Don't straight away want to be the problem solver. So that's number 3. Do not fix, but let them talk. Let them have a safe place to express. And number 4 is acceptance. Just accepting. If they were to share, I'm I just got a diagnosis and I'm actually depressed. I just seen a doctor and something like that. And just accept, say, thank you for sharing this. No matter what, I know you're a great guy. I know right now you're just probably suffering, struggling because you lost a job. It's a huge thing.
Yep.
It's not surprised that you're feeling really down right now. So number 4 is acceptance. It's accepting your friend, what they are going through.
I think it's great. What else? Please go on. I this is so important. This is so useful as well, I think, to a lot of people.
No worries.
Yeah.
So the 5th one will be giving directions. It's not problem solving, but giving direction means if your friend is really having some suicidal urge or harming self, then we need to give certain directions already. Okay? We cannot just, I'm so sorry, you want to harm yourself. Okay, because that's a red flag already.
Right.
Yeah. So we can help our friends all throughout this journey. And when you know your friends are so trusting in you, that's why they share this very deep vulnerability.
Yeah.
And the 5th one is direction. That is if they are harm to self. Okay.
Wow.
So I hope it's simple. That's how it was 4. The 5 is just directions.
Right.
But keep to 4 if there's no self-harm.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to paraphrase what you say to see if I understood it correctly. Number 1 is, what do you call that? Listen.
Just listen.
Number 2 is to paraphrase. Number 3 is to accept. Right?
Number 3 is not to fix.
Not to fix. Don't have to be a problem solver. And then number 4 is to accept how they feel, what you're saying.
Yes.
Right. And number 5, if you find that the red flag is there and they've already open up to you and say, I have these thoughts and I have these plans, then to also offer direction.
Yeah.
You know what I love about all these 4 tips? I love the fact that you don't need a degree to do this. Literally anyone and everyone who is listening to this right now, every one of us can apply this. Yeah. All of us, right? Indeed. I love how these 4 tips can be applied to everyone and anyone. It doesn't take a lot to check in with someone and to listen to their problems. It really doesn't take a lot of resources, or it doesn't take $1 million to paraphrase whatever you're saying, so that they know that you are interested and you understand what they're saying or how they feel. It doesn't take a lot to try to problem solve. In fact, it takes much lesser
no pressure on you, actually.
Exactly, yeah, there's no pressure. And number 4, to just accept. So I love the fact that these 4 tips actually can be done by anyone and everyone. So these are fantastic tips, I feel, and it's very useful for this time that we're living in. And number 5, when you say offer direction, if I were to just try to expand that a little bit, is it, when you say offer direction, it means something like, can I advise you, or can I, if you don't mind, can I refer you to someone else? If you don't mind, may I introduce so and so who is qualified this one? Is that what you mean?
Yes. And if you know, like, they already have plans, right? Sometimes it's just thoughts. Thoughts are just flying thoughts. Sometimes I just feel I can die. Then you ask them, do you have a plan? Plan what plan? I mean, plan to, you say you want to die, do you have plan or not? Then they say, no I'm just saying only. I was like, okay. So that means it's not really a serious thing. So if they say, I do. I mean, the other day I was just thinking maybe just go to my balcony, because I live in 13th floor. Then you know this is more serious.
Right.
And then they said, and then what you can do, a follow-up would be, oh man, I'm just so worried for you now. I'm actually very worried. And when you say that you went to the balcony and you sort of like thought of it, I really care for you. You're my friend, and I cannot just keep to myself because I'm so worried for you. Do you mind if I'm going to talk to your leaders or talk to your parents about this? Because I think you really need certain support. I don't think this struggle we can go through alone.
That felt so reassuring, by the way. That felt really nice to hear.
Yeah. So it's just continue to be there. It's hearing them out. Don't say things like, don't tell me you want to die. Are you sure? And the person will straight away say, no, don't have. I was joking. So you already cut of that
Right.
potential vulnerability. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, you want to keep it going and be very tactful in your words as well when when they're saying this topic of harming self lah.
Fantastic. Wow, Avis, that is so super duper awesome. I mean, for you to give a scenario and literally the exact words of what somebody else, listening out there can actually use, can actually say. Of course, you can paraphrase it in your own words, but the point is there, to make sure that, hey, you're cared for, and I'm here because I care for you. You are loved, actually. So you're not alone in this. And I actually, if you don't mind, I would love to help. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And it's so reassuring to hear that. And I think more people need to hear this as well. Yeah, because of what you said just now. It's like, you want to die. It's straight away you respond. I mean, that's the normal response, actually. Because you never think. Because the thing is that I would say that depression can sometimes mask itself very well. It's quite hard to sometimes say that someone is depressed because it can actually, someone who is happy and smiling and can joke with you, that person may actually be depressed. Is it fair to say that, right?
Of course. That's why we have sudden deaths where we cannot explain. He was such a great son or great daughter, there wasn't any telltale signs. Yeah, because they have this way of coping, which is using humor.
Right.
Or masking, using humor. And
Yeah.
being a very good friend, you want to give that space for the mask to take down and then stay with it.
Wow. I think that's fantastic, Avis. You told us the telltale signs, the 4 different categories, potentially 5. And also you tell us how to respond with also 4 different tips, very practical, applicable tips as well. And a 5th one with a caveat where, if they say they really have these thoughts. And I think that is just fantastic advice that everyone should hear and more and more people should and can apply. So we've talked a little bit about depression now. Not a little bit, we've talked quite a lot about depression and the telltale signs, as Avis mentioned, and also tips on how we can help, which is fantastic because I think everyone can do it. And now we're going to move a little bit down now to taking care of our own mental health. Like I said, for part 2, it's going to be very applicable. It's not really theoretical, but things that we can also apply in our own lives. So this comes from one of our Discord community members as well. Her or his name, I'm not sure, is Rebby. And Rebby asks, could you share tips on how we can better care for our mental health during this time? And, I suppose this time means it's the pandemic time lah. So I'm going to, this is, of course, a very wide area. So if you don't mind, Avis, I'm going to just break it down a little bit here to, again, different groups of people. And let's start, if you don't mind, with people who are cooped up at home. I'm talking about myself here, who are working from home, and we're constantly facing these 4 walls. So sometimes it gets very like, it's like in prison, like almost. It feels like, you can't go out. You feel like you're in jail, and I know that a lot of people have it tougher outside, and this is something that sometimes I also deal with because you sometimes feel very sad, but you are reminded, other people are having it tougher. How can I complain? I shouldn't be feeling this way. But at the same time, these feelings I feel are quite valid. Sure, it's so easy to say like, that person, cannot even eat. Here I am, I have food. How can I complain? But you can't still deny those feelings. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm talking to my counselor. Well, you still can't deny the feelings that, hey, it's so, you're cooped up at home. You can't go out. You're facing these 4 walls. So how do I better care for my mental health for people like myself who are cooped up at home, cannot go out, working from home? Let's start with this group of people first.
Right. Yeah, such an important question, Brandon. I like that you say you validate your emotion, and that is part of mental health. It is itself.
Right.
By acknowledging that, something in me is just feeling so restrained, so controlled. And with that, when you are aware that something needs to work, something needs to improve, that in itself is self-care. Okay, self-care, working from home and you're cooped up, you notice within you that, I'm very discomfort at this moment. Okay, and let's try to see how the problem solve. I'm feeling this discomfort. So that goes to some of my tips lah. Okay, number 1 is self-aware.
Right.
If you are working from home, you've been working from say 9 to 3 p.m. and you didn't stop at all. Okay, so So that's not taking care of yourself. All right. So number one is being self-aware. You're working from home. At least you have some structure in place. Okay. So for example, you are working from 9 to 10 and you have a break. Okay. 10 to 12, you have a lunch break. Okay. So 12 to 2, and then you have a break. So have some small structure going on. Me, myself, in the same category, I work from home. I'm cooped up with 2 kids. Some of the things that I'll do is I'll make sure at around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I will do my exercise at home. All right. I will do that no matter what. My baby might be crying a little bit. I'll try to rock him a little bit, and then I'll continue my exercise. So there's something that I promised to myself for self-care.
Right.
Especially working from home. Okay. Small thing, it doesn't need to be big goals. Okay. Sometimes it's taking in between breaks. Sometimes it's doing exercise in a particular time. Or some small goals can be eating healthy and not snack junk food.
Oh, I feel attacked.
There's so much we can do.
Oh, no snacking? How? Why? Don't do this to me, Avis.
Healthy snack lah. You know, nowadays they have this fried fruits, right? The fruits that are dried.
Dried fruits. Yeah.
Yeah, not fried fruits. Dried fruits, yeah. That can be a good alternative snacks.
Okay, I'll consider.
Yes. So that's from working from home. Just self-care, number one, and small goals.
Now, that's very good advice as well. You know, something that I found that helped me actually was that because this is like my makeshift office, right? You guys can't see, but there's a bed right beside me and stuff like that. But I actually like sometimes rearrange the room or like, you know, like even my set right now, it's different. I just switched it up last week. Did all the cables again and then switched it around and then it feels better now. I don't know, but for me that helped a lot, you know, because you're confined to this room. So I actually took the time to like change certain stuff here in this shelf, you know, just to, this is now different, and then change the setup on the table, clean it a little bit. So I for me personally, I found that helped me a lot. I don't know what practical tips out of that I applied. Maybe I subconsciously applied a tip that I didn't know about. But I did some of these changes around the room, and it feel much better for me. So so what do you think? Is that something that can be done?
Yes, definitely, Brandon. Thank you for giving the extra tip, because everyone is different.
Right.
Yeah. Some people say, no, I like the way things are. I cannot tahan changes. You know? So you change my room setting, I'll be depressed. You know. So, yeah. So some people like the way things are, and they don't really like changes. Okay. But for people like you, if you change up, it gives you a fresh energy to it. Yeah, please go ahead. So sometimes, seeing my clients as well, I give my own experience, and I will invite them. What do you think would work for you in this cooped up area?
Right.
What other creative ways you can take care of yourself? These are all the standard self-care. You can Google up, self-care tips. Yeah, but I would invite them or invite you to come up with your own special ways to de-stress or to self-care.
Very interesting. Now we're going to go from being cooped up at home to all the way to the other end of the spectrum here. And I want to address the second group of people. And these are the group of people that while we are called to stay at home and don't go out unless it's absolutely necessary, these are the group of people that have to go outside to make a living because they are the breadwinners of the family, or maybe they just need the money to survive and they have no choice. Maybe they're considered essential, but they have to go out outside to make a living. How and these people have to face the dangers that is outside right now, and they could probably face an entirely different emotional environment than those people who are cooped up at home. What about these group of people?
I would say totally understand that it is not your first choice to go out to work because you probably have family, you have little kids. I want to acknowledge it's not your first choice, And because of situations, they're sort of like no choice. You have to be out working and support your family. So one thing to support your health or mental health in this place is to talk it through with your family. To make sure that because you need to go out to work and there is sort of what you need to do, it's good to at least discuss and talk it out with your family. So at least you have a family support and your family understanding you that you need to go out. So in a sense, there's no more added pressure or stress or conflict. When you yourself is already quite afraid going out, and now other people are nagging you as well because you're going out. So the first one is try your best to just have a family support, discuss with your family that this is really the way forward. By hook or crook, I need to be out of the door to work. And then hearing everyone out, of course, practicing the practical SOP. This is so much we can do at this moment. So emotionally, it's at least having your family supporting you, have your family at your back.
I think that's so important. That's so important.
Yeah. The rest is the same, like taking vitamins or wearing masks, those kind of things.
Now, good that you mentioned family, because the third group of people are devoid, unfortunately, of this word family. They may have family probably living somewhere else, maybe East Malaysia or outstation or overseas. But these people, I would say, are slightly unique. They live alone. Like for me, I still have family living with me. At least I still have some physical and physically social interactions with these people. And these people, not only are they cooped up at home, or they could be possibly working from home, but they also live alone. So you mentioned family just now, and now this group of people are no, they live alone. What about this almost sometimes forgotten group of people?
Indeed. I have a couple of clients in that category. They're cooped up and living alone, working from home. So one of the ways to take care of your mental health is to begin with the end in mind. What I mean is, since you have so much time alone, and you are cooped up at home, imagine, say, next year, probably we are managing the pandemic better. What would you like to turn back and say, oh, I have achieved this in my comfort of my home?
Right.
So begin with the end in mind. So because of this limitation, but what can I achieve, or what can I enhance or be equipped in this time?
So it's like setting targets and goals that are not unrealistic, but one that you feel like, hey, it's achievable, and when you do achieve it, there is a sense of satisfaction and contentment that some self-improvement has happened, and you can look back and say, yes, I did that.
Right. Because sometimes, a 1 year has passed, right? Last year, March, and this year, March. 1 year has passed since the MCO. Some people might be cooped up for a year, and then they turn back and say, what have I achieved for last 1 year? Oh, actually a lot. Maybe they sign up for Coursera online and lost weight, or bonded with their family in another state.
Right.
And these are good things to look forward to and good things to share.
I like that.
So for those who are living alone.
Yes, you're right. Now, what are some tips in general that can apply to everyone all across the board, across all ages, across all this one, that we can just help ourselves to remain positive in this time? Any tips that you can share with us, for generally everyone that can apply?
Live one day at a time. Even though for the you have big goals, maybe you set. Especially for big goals are more like people who live alone, and they don't really have a lot of kids or families taking up their time. But for those who have kids and family and everything, is live one day at a time as well. Small goals, one day at a time. For those who are alone, think wider what you want to achieve with the time you have in hand. Okay.
Wow. I think that's
So how to stay positive?
yeah.
Is
How
it your
how
question?
to remain or stay positive? Difficult question.
Well, well, I would say maybe the term staying positive can be quite pressuring,
Right.
this time.
That it's okay
You
to
know?
acknowledge
So
the negative feelings. Like, I think that's what you're trying to get at, is it?
yeah, it's okay also to acknowledge.
Right.
But generally to answer that question would be managing our emotions. Instead of how to stay positive, is how to manage my emotions when I'm stressed out because I have a lot of work, or when I'm so feeling hopeless that we are still cooped up until the year end or more. So instead of staying positive, is how am I going to manage my frustration? How am I going to manage my anxiety if I still need to be cooped up?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So instead of how to stay positive, it's how to manage my emotions or my stress, or how to regulate, how to still stay grounded.
Very good. I think these
that
are
would be a
some
better question.
yeah, these are very important questions that we can ask ourselves and help us. Now, again, as always, we're always running out of time on this show because there's so many nuggets of wisdom that you can share. But as we close, I want to just focus on the last two questions here. We touch a little bit about this in part one. For those of you who haven't listened to it, you can listen to part one. It's already been uploaded, and it's dealing with mental illnesses, right? And the question is, can we surrender our mental illness to God? Is there even such a thing? Yeah. Since you said mental illness is, it can be a thing on its own, but can we surrender it to God? And some people say this, when it comes to mental illnesses or a downward trend of your mental health, some people might say this is just God's way of testing you and your faith. Or worse still, your mental illness is a punishment for your sins. Some worse still, you get this kind of response. So in response to that, how should we respond to such statements? Such statements, that is out there. So two things here: can we surrender our mental illness to God? And number two, how do we respond to these kind of statements when people say like, this is just God testing your faith? Yeah.
Yes, number one is, yes, we can bring our burdens to God, which include our mental illness.
Right.
Yeah, we can bring our anxieties to Him.
Yeah.
Cast our burdens on Him, for He cares for you. Definitely, mental health included. Second is if people will see mental illness as a punishment from sin,
Right.
from our own sin, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I would link back to how Jesus is a gentle and lowly in heart. Yeah, in Matthew 11, where it says, "Come to me who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Yeah, take my yoke upon you and lean on me, for I am gentle and humble in heart." Okay. So if we feel that our mental illness is because of certain sin, it may be, it may be. But this verse strikes me most when people say, "I'm punished for my sins," is that Jesus is still gentle and lowly in heart. Okay, so He is a good teacher. He is a good shepherd. Right? Whether your mental illness is from whatever source, He is gentle in His ways, in supporting you in this journey, in supporting you in this struggles that you are going through. And sometimes I would like to ask as well, if someone doubt their mental illness or judge someone else's mental illness, I would ask them, is this Jesus talking or is somebody else talking? And they said, your mental illness is a punishment. Is it Jesus talking or someone else talking? Yeah, because Jesus is gentle and humble in heart.
Wow, very thought-provoking questions. Very good. Yeah.
I will just leave that as that.
Wow. So I think that's a very good question to close us today. We've talked we talked at length about depression and also, how can we better care for ourselves, our own mental health, for the different groups of people. General tips for everyone that, all of us can apply. And also, how do we respond to such statements? You know, and I love your example and the verse that you came up with. You know, that God is, you know, He is gentle and lowly in heart. You know, and you know, and anyone can come to Him. Doesn't matter what state you are in, and He's so ready to accept you and embrace you, and you know, to just give you a big warm hug. And that should be the example that we also use, regardless of what mental state or mental health, you know, status that any of these people are in. So I think on that note, it's a very positive encouragement to take a good look at ourselves as well. Sometimes it's always very important to examine oneself, you know, and to also remember this is how our Lord Jesus would respond, and we should also respond similarly. So that's a great ending to today's episode, I feel. Avis, thank you so much. Really, I really appreciate your time. And I think whatever you shared today is so important and so useful and very applicable. So thank you so much for your time and, you know, and all your insights. And I'm sure all of us who are listening have learned so many more things, not just one or two things. So thank you so much. Before I let you go, as always, any last words you would like to say? I always like to leave it till the end. Because this is the culmination of it, and the Holy Spirit could have spoken to you. So anything that, you know, you wish to say from your heart to anyone who's listening right now?
All right, really, this is a time to continue to reflect on our lives, and also to continue to look to Jesus in any situation. If you have a friend that's struggling, what would Jesus do? Right? When you are struggling, what would Jesus say to me? And if we are all still in anxiety, how can we come to God with our anxiety?
Wow.
I think this will be the last things, pointing back to Jesus.
Lovely, fantastic. And this is what the show is about. I love how you just pointed it back to Jesus, and this is what the ministry is all about as well. You know, whenever you guys listen to this, we will always hope that we can point you back to our Lord Jesus Christ, who is so loving and so gracious. Avis, again, thank you so much on behalf of myself and the entire team. And for those of you who are listening out there, we hope that you've learned a thing or two today. We are so encouraged, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this as well. This has been part 2 of our mental health topic. Avis, I feel like this will not be the last time we see you again. You know, hopefully we will love to see you and invite you back on the show. And to all of you out there, you know, don't forget you can always watch this on Spotify again. Watch part 1 again if you've missed it and you haven't watched it. And you can join our Discord community server as well. We've got a bunch of fun-loving people in there who will be able to do live with you, so you can join that. The link is in the description below. Don't forget, stream us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts as well. We've got Listen Up and Let's Get Real all on the major streaming platforms. So with that, I would like to close and say thank you so much, Avis. God bless you, especially in what you're doing in your ministry as well. And I pray that, you know, you will be able to influence many people and improve the mental health of everyone you meet. So thank you so much, Avis, for doing this. And to all of you, thank you and God bless. And we'll see you guys again next time on Listen Up. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Brandon, as well.
You're welcome.